Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, let's talk about which is the better investment value for your account. Is it Ruan Mei or is it Fugue? And normally we like to jump in being straight to the point with current value, but in this case, I have a special section for you right at the front because it's very confusing. What is the difference between Ruan Mei as well as Fugue? In order to progress to the rest of this video and understand their true value and which is the better investment, you need to first understand what distinguishes these two characters. And as always, I will be very unbiased, just logical comparisons between the two of them. If you want to know my own personal bias, I'll leave it all the way at the end of the video for any of you who care about that. So first things first, between two of these two characters right now, they are very similar. They play into a lot of break teams, they play into a lot of super break teams as well. But in order to understand the difference, you need to know that there are two types of break damage currently in the game. The first is the OD obvious break, which is when you break the toughness bar, you do an instance of damage based off your break effect, whether it's fire break, whether it's imaginary break, blah blah blah. That is the first instance. And more recently, since Panicani and ever since the arrival of Harmony MC, we have this new thing called a super break damage. Not new anymore, it's kind of aged already a while. Super break damage is when the enemy is broken, you hit the enemy and it scales off of the weakness toughness breaking ability instead of the instance of break effect that your character has. So two very different categories, and once you break it down to these two and you think about it, it becomes more clear, and let's talk about it. Ruan Mei, want to make a guess which category does she fall into? In honest opinion, comparing both of them, if let's say you were to give her one category, Ruan Mei is actually more of a super break enabler rather than a break enabler. And why do I say that? If you think about the nature of super break, is the enemies want to be broken for a longer period of time so that you can keep doing more instances of damage. And Ruan Mei is actually counterproductive to break focus characters other than the fact that maybe you get some break effect buffing here and there. At the end of the day, break is all about the instance of break and you want to break that instance as much as you can. So comparing these two characters, Ruan Mei is more focused on super break herself in her overall kit, but the problem with Ruan Mei is she does not enable super break. She's a catalyst for super break teams, but she does not enable them because having her alone without any form of other characters with super break does not make her work, which is why it's very fundamental to have characters like Harmony MC, which act as the enabler for break teams, at the same time buffing you for break teams, enabling you for super break teams because she actually provides the instance of super break damage for your team, or playing with other characters who have innate super break in their kit. For example, units like Rapper, for example, units like Firefly. All these characters have some sort of innate super break in them, which is why it's still possible to run a dual DPS Firefly Rapper with Ruan Mei and Lingsha, for example. That is the true difference between both of them. It is also why if you run Ruan Mei together with Xue, you will find the damage is a lot more lackluster than if you play Xue together with Harmony MC, even though they are like break characters, right? The problem is because Ruan Mei does not enable super break without an enabler in their own kit, or Harmony MC with their enabling ability. So that is a very important distinguishing factor that is blinding a lot of people. I think not many people are considering the true weakness of Ruan Mei in break teams is that she is relying heavily on an enabler. So now, going on to the flip side, now we talked a bit about Ruan Mei already, and I want to help you understand Fugue's overall kit. Fugue is an enabler for super break, and at the same time, she buffs up break damage insanely. So she is an enabler for super break where you have any character you designate has the super break ability, you help weakness, toughness breaking, everything. So she scales very nicely in break effect. She buffs break effect as well. At the same time, she allows you to have 2 toughness breaking. So she's an enabler for super break, not a massive catalyst because they only get broken once. They don't have as long as a duration. At the same time, she is a very massive catalyst and buffer for a break character to help you break enemies faster, which in turn also enables super break. So this is the pinnacle of a break character that you are looking for because she plays into both and she's very independent, doesn't need an enabler, doesn't need a catalyst, and she will form the crux of future break teams moving forward, which is why I think she is break 2.0. She's an upgrade on both Harmony MC as well as Ruan Mei, specifically for break focus teams, super break teams moving forward, because she is an enabler, she is a buffer in her overall kit. So this is just a very special quick dedication section to help you distinguish the two characters, but we are not done here. there are a lot of things that you need to consider. So just talking about break alone doesn't give you the true reflection of value because there's a lot of things not talked about. So let's go in first with current value. These two characters generally play into very similar teams. If you would ask me, the one that is more versatile is probably going to be Ruan Mei compared to a character like Fugue. So what we have mentioned is very focused on break. Between the two of them, Ruan Mei can be played outside of break teams, can be played into a lot of teams because of the massive damage buffing that she provides the entirety of the team. She has good uptime on her buffs as well, whereas Fugue on the other hand really shines best in break teams or enabling the function of break. Outside of that, not too much. Maybe DOT teams, debuff teams specifically, and maybe some people might argue you could play a DOT break kind of enabling teams, but currently the game state DOT is not super massively popular. So team compositions wise, they overlap a lot, but if you're going for flexibility, you're building team compositions, Ruan Mei offers you a lot more variety. If you already have Ruan Mei, you're thinking of picking Fugue up, great news, they work very well together because she's a catalyst and a buffer. Ruan Mei is a very, very massive buffer for both break and super break as well, and she does need, for example, a Fugue to fully function well. So that is one of the things. The next thing, then the question that you're asking is, instead of looking focused on these two characters and the teams they fulfill, we need to look at the current value of other characters in the game, and the biggest downside is, do they have an ability to implant super break themselves? From what we have noticed, characters that are pinnacle DPSs in the super break category, like Rapper, like Firefly, all have some innate super break in them, which is why so far Ruan Mei feels very comfortable to run. But the biggest question that you have is, Fugue really shines when you want to take a character, your supports, your defensive characters that want to do some super break, they do not have innate value in them. For example, maybe like Lingsha in that case, for example, maybe like Gallagher, who do not innately have some kind of super break ability. If you have her on the field, you're allowing your whole team, even healers that basic attack, can do super break rather than just focusing on the DPS. So Ruan Mei is very focused on the DPS, whereas Fugue can bring super break from your entire of your team. That is the thing that you need to consider. Will we have more characters, more supports that do more damage in an AoE? In that sense, that the value of those characters definitely do go up, of characters like Fugue, because you bring out more characters. If you believe that every single character will have super break in them, then Fugue's value goes down very significantly in the current game state as well. For now, Ruan Mei, I would say, slightly ages out in the current value category over Fugue because of the broader team compositions that she fulfills, whereas Fugue is really a master in her niche, and likely you will see a lot of it popping off in future value. So now we've talked about both of them. Alternatives wise, this one I'll keep it very straightforward, short and sharp, because we really talked about in the special section when we first began, the true difference between the two of them. Outside of this category, Fugue is really only competing with Harmony MC. Other than Ruan Mei, Fugue competes with Harmony MC because these two are enablers. Between the both of them, definitely Fugue is much better in a fit for your overall team. She does a lot more. She can play into even debuff teams with perhaps even Akirion, as we talked about in our our break Akirion teams that we talked about in Fugue team compositions recently. At the same time, Harmony MC is going to want to move on to other roles in future. So whatever that may be, Remembrance maybe is very, very strong, we don't know yet. But this allows you a flexibility of moving your enabler for super break teams to somewhere else, like Harmony MC. But the problem is that justified for insane amount of spending? Right now in the game state, you do not really need a Fugue to make break work, whereas Harmony MC is still around, because Harmony MC is still around. But in a rerun perhaps, maybe when Harmony MC moves on, or if she doesn't move on, that's even better, then Fugue's value might be for a future kind of pool. But right now, because of Harmony MC, an entire limited character for Fugue, it is hard to justify based on the alternatives that's available. Whereas for Ruan Mei, if you look at it, other than Fugue as a proxy for break, Ruan Mei's true alternatives really are the other Harmony characters. For example, like Robin, for example, like to some extent even Sparkle, to some extent even characters like Sunday, very versatile characters that fit into many, many different team compositions already. In this sense, you are fighting a whole different battle outside of break altogether. The fact that Ruan Mei can compete in versatile characters like Robin, can compete with versatile characters like Sparkle, Bronya, and whatever DPS buffer that you're looking for, and can even be played with like E2 Akirion teams if you don't have Sparkle in them, shows you the versatility of a character like Ruan Mei being able to flexibly play into a lot of sections. In my opinion, alternatives wise, I think that because Ruan Mei is so versatile, because she fights into a lot of categories. I don't want to penalize her for being competing with a lot of many characters because of her versatility. At the same time, you have a very, very efficient option right now in Harmony MC that is literally free. So in that case, I'll give the win to Ruan Mei, which I think is slightly much better in terms of being more or less like the jack of most trades, and perhaps now no longer the master of one, which she outperformed greatly in break teams. And that is my opinion of alternatives. So now that we have both of them, it seems very, very favorable to Ruan Mei, and that is where things start to change once you look at the future. The future game state is tending towards uncertainty, where we are going to have new characters introduced, we have remembrance characters. The question really that we are looking for is break going to be relevant? Is it still going to be very good? That is of course a whole different question for another date, but given that they are introducing a character as flexible to enable Super Break as Fugue, I do think that Super Break will have some sort of relevance. Don't forget, Fugue doesn't care which character she is buffing. All Fugue needs is a character that can perhaps hit in an AoE, and perhaps once a little bit of break effect, you can have any character becoming a pseudo Super Break team. This is really very flexible, and even why I think a character like Akirion could be played very nicely even with a Fugue team, especially if you have E0, maybe with Jiao Qiu as well as Fugue. She does decent damage on her side, she would have a little bit of break effect as well, so I think that Fugue enables any character to consider the aspect of Super Break, very similar to the like of Harmony MC, how when you slap in Harmony MC, even characters for example like Himiko can become Super Break. In that same vein, characters for example like Tingyun, Fugue, or Tingyun 5-star enables a lot of these kind of unique styles, which it might be very helpful in future value as we get more and more characters. For all you know, you can have your remembrance characters all dealing Super Break. That'll be quite interesting to think about. Even like minions maybe can do some Super Break damage at the same time. So you have a lot of characters doing Super Break damage. Ruan Mei on the other hand, I think at this point, Ruan Mei has been around for a while. She already has one rerun coming up, and she is likely going to have one more perhaps soon, as we talked about in our predictions videos on the channel. At the end of the day, Ruan Mei is a little bit of a dated character right now. She was a 1.6-ish character, been out for a while, but of course, being slightly older doesn't discriminate. We don't discriminate against slightly longer characters. At the end of the day, her competition has increased tremendously since 1.6. We see her fighting a lot more with characters like Robin. We see her fighting a lot more with characters like Sunday. And if she's only playing as a jack of all trades, now master of perhaps none in her field, you are using a very utility beat stick that is likely going to reduce in value over time as we get a more versatility of remembrance coming up that she doesn't enable without a Super Break enabler, so you can't just slap in a break. Whereas Fugue is a lot more versatile in that sense. I think that I'll give this win to Fugue just because she enables a lot of things, whereas Ruan Mei is dependent a lot on catalysts for Super Break, as well as she competes in a lot of fields that is increasingly crowded and with the uncertainty that is moving forward. So looking forward, Fugue is the one that definitely significantly outperforms. Now that we talk about future value, let's turn our attention to potential, and this section is really looking at Hoyoverse themselves. What is the nature of Hoyoverse? What do they like to do? What is the kind of tendencies they have? One of the biggest things that I have is underrated characters tend to bite us in the butt later on. And I would say Fugue right now in the current game state, more people are focused on Sunday. People don't see a huge necessity on Fugue. So based on this inference and any other character we have seen in the past, for example, popular characters like Topaz and Nambi, who really was underperforming significantly. For example, like Jing Liu, who was in the exact same banner, who was way more popular. Now, Fugue does feel a little bit in the same sense. A lot of us think we don't need Fugue, we already have Harmony MC and stuff like that. So I think that this is the biggest selling point at Hoyoverse, tripping on my words here. Hoyoverse is going to FOMO us once we move out Harmony MC into Remembrance MC, and suddenly all our Super Break teams die because our enabler for Super Break is gone, and Ruan Mei is not enough to help proc without like a DPS that procs it themselves. So that is a huge difference. Fugue is an enabler, and she is the only thing that will keep your break teams functioning without Harmony MC. The question is really how strong is this character over here going to be? Is she, if you believe that Hoyoverse is going to make her meta, Style here, Remembrance MC, super meta because they want you to shift into a new meta, then in that case, Fugue's value is very important, and I would actually recommend pulling for this character if you are of the view that Remembrance MC is going to be super meta. Then again, we have time. You can always pull it in a rerun, but one thing for sure is Maybe, perhaps her rerun might be longer than others. Some characters take longer to come out, but you can be sure if there's value in this character, Hoyoverse likely will milk us for it. So potential section, I will have to give it a few. Based on how it seems, the trends that it is, they will never release a character for no reason, and it just seemed that her value right now in the current game state is the lowest it will ever be because Harmony MC is around, but we might have to migrate sooner or later. Whereas for Ruan Mei, the only trend that she plays into is like the law, I guess, for eminators, for example, like Genius Society. But I don't see them banking on Ruan Mei any further. She has already been sold 2 times, 3 times. They probably can't milk her anymore. Most people already have her. Her Eidolons are E1 probably. So in terms of monetization, a lot of people have this character. I don't see them banking on this character in the long run to continue being their cash cow in like reruns in the future. So they want to migrate on to new characters. At the end of the day, now let's talk about free-to-play point of view. This is the last section before I share with you my own biased thoughts. Instead of looking at all characters as like E1, E6, signature, without signature, we want to talk about it in terms of the free-to-play perspective. If you are a new player, I want this video to also be for you. If you perhaps don't have either of these characters because you skipped Ruan Mei in totality and you're now looking to pick up one of them, perhaps for a soon Ruan Mei rerun, who knows, this category is meant for you. For these 2 characters, in my opinion, the cheaper one between both of them to run in terms of account-wide efficiency will be Ruan Mei because she fills in a lot more gaps. If you're a newer player looking to build new teams, she is a very good alternative to be like a proxy for everything, filling in a lot of rosters. Whereas a character like Fugue is really better to double down on one category and play that playstyle. If you really love Break, you really love Super Break, you can't get enough of it, Fugue is the way to go. But in terms of team-wide account building for newer players, Ruan Mei helps you tremendously. On the flip side of things, Ruan Mei without S5 Memory of the Past, which is a limited 4-star light cone at S5, which is arguably very hard to get, without her signature, is actually quite difficult to get her 3-tone rotation unless you're running a 3-star light cone like Mashing Cogs. So that is one important thing. Ruan Mei is all about stats to get those multipliers up, to hit the thresholds of break effect, to hit like, at least some HP she has so she's a bit more chunky, and some energy regeneration to know the 3-turn rotations. Fugue, on the other hand, is much easier to build. Her Nihility light cones, so many of them have break effect. She doesn't even scale massively with break effect. She just needs to hit certain thresholds. So for building her, access to cheap light cones, very, very affordable. The only thing is she's really doubling down in one camp. So that is the only thing that keeps her a little bit more expensive. But then again, if you have like one Firefly, you have one Rapper, you slap in a Fugue, you slap in a Harmony MC, which they stack by the way, so you can do double Super Break, so it's really nice also. So you have a really, really good free-to-play comp. The last one you slap in like Gallagher, still going to be very affordable to run, but it is a little bit more niche. So between the recommendations for free-to-play, if you're an early game player, I would say Ruan Mei is much more favoured. Unless of course you have Firefly and you have Rapper. If you picked up one of these 2 recently as well, or maybe like in the current patch you pick up like Fugue together with Firefly, then in that case Fugue gets a bit of an advantage. But without Firefly, without Rapper, Ruan Mei is definitely way better for free to play. Outside of this, if you're a slightly longer term player, I think Fugue offers a lot more value because of her flexibility in her comps. In terms of her gearing, doesn't really require too much pulling and wailing as we talked about in her signature light cone, which I highly recommend you check out if you haven't seen that video already, or talking about her signature light cone and alternatives for her. Last but not least, my own personal thoughts. This is a very tricky one because at this point when I'm making this video, everyone is like saying Fugue is not important at all. Everyone is still believing that Ruan Mei is one of the best characters. But I'm of the view that Fugue is much more a superior investment compared to Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei has one of been my top picks for one of the longest period of times, but I do think for the many reasons mentioned, the enabler and catalyst function that we talked about right at the beginning, having a character that is able to make any character a super break character and able to fill in the roles of Harmony MC when we move on to a new meta helps you stabilize your current roster as well as widen your options in future in case you want to turn a new DPS into a break DPS, very similar to the likes of Himiko suddenly becoming super break with Harmony MC. That is a very, very flexible option for your overall account, which not many people are thinking about. I'll give the win to Fugue, but thank you guys again so much for watching. Let me know your winner as well in the comments below, and see you guys in the next video.